So this is my bridle board, and when you make kites, often they ask for a specific part of the bridle to be a specific length. And how do we get a string that's exactly the length that they want in the plan? So this is the method that I use. This is the method that I teach in workshops. And most people in my workshops, they have a little trouble wrapping their heads around it the first time. So we're going to try to explain it this way, and you can let me know how I do. So let's just, for instance, just for the sake of argument, let's just say I need a string, an element of my bridle that's 12 inches long. So I know I want to tie 5-inch loops. So I'm going to make a mark at 5 inches. Okay? Now, so I want another one, 12 inches, so that's where the other end of my other loop is going to be, right? Right? And now I'm going to cut it at 5. So now I've got 2 loops. Says so right here. So now I'll have 5 inches on, I've got a 12-inch line, and I've got 5 inches on each end to make loops. So now I have a mark. I bend on the mark, and I hope A, I hope I'm in frame, and B, I hope I'm in focus. Alright, and I tie my overhand. Tie an overhand to get an overhand loop. And here's the thing. Here's why I do it this way. Find my mark. Find my mark. And as long as I bend on the mark, again, I hope I'm in focus, I hope I'm in frame. My mark is right there. So if I pinch at the mark and close up my knot, no matter where the knot ends up, so I'm getting all wrapped up in my work again. I hate it when that happens, don't you? Okay, so now, as long as I pinch on the mark, no matter where that ends up, it soaks up the same amount of string. So I don't have to be too finicky about tying my knot. As long as I get an overhand knot in there, I'm golden. So, we're going to do it again. I have my mark. Okay, don't know, want to be able to see if you can see the mark, but I have my mark. I'm going to pinch on the mark. Okay, tie my overhand. Alright, so I tied my overhand. My mark is at the end of my loop. My mark is at the end of my loop. Now, I put it on, and guess what? I'm an inch short. I'm an inch short of where I started. Because these marks were 12 inches apart. But then I tied the loops. So now I know that these knots soak up a ½ inch. So now, we'll have to do it, I'll try it again. Okay, so I'm going to, through the magic of video, I'm going to try to make this a little bit clearer. Alright, again, I allow 5 inches for me to tie my loop, and that's just because, you know, I got fat fingers and it's easier for me to use 5 inches to tie a loop. Okay, the length of string that I want is a foot. So from here, 5 plus 12 is 17. And I know my knots soak up an inch, so I'm going to add an inch to my 17, and that's where I made my second mark on 18. Plus I need the 5 inches, so I cut it at 23. And you notice, yeah, close enough is good enough, because guess what? This doesn't matter. All that matters is the distance between the marks, because that's what's going to determine the length of our string when it's finally tied. So, for instance, there's a plan for a circumflex on the web. The finished dimension of the 12 o'clock bridle line is 55 inches. So I allow 5 for each loop. Let's see if we can, here we go, bring in a loop. You allow 5 extra inches for each loop. So that's 55 plus 10 for 2 loops. That gets us to 65. And if I was using this string to make that, because this one soaks up a ½ inch for each knot, I would cut it at 66. The string we used was a much thinner diameter, so it only took up 3/8. And that's why the plan says cut it at 65 3/4. You followed all of that, right? So all it is the length of the string that's desired, plus an allowance for the loops, plus an allowance for the knots. Bada bing. Okay, so we're doing it again. Marked at 5, marked at 18, and the reason there's 13 inches between these two marks is because the knots soak up an inch. The 5 on either end is just an allowance to tie your knot, because again, I got fat fingers. It's not easy for me to tie knots, so the more room I have to play in, the happier my fingers are. So see, pinch on the mark, tighten the knot, life is good. Wherever the knot lands, where it goes, whether the knot ends up here, here, or here, it's going to soak up the same amount of string. So you don't have to be accurate with your knot as long as you pinch the mark. So that's the method behind the madness for this system. And yes, in a perfect world, I would be allowing for the width of the nail on my, and the marks on the board actually do that, but this is for demonstration purposes. I'm trying to illustrate the principle of making 2 marks, tying 2 knots, and having an accurate string. So, it worked in rehearsal, right? So, in a perfect world, I should have a 12 inch. Okay? So there's the method behind the madness, the principle behind the whole 9 yards. Okay, alright? Good luck. Have fun.